Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today hopefully we'll get some insight on the way colleges do their admissions process by the admissions testing. Today my guest is Chris Mitchell, and he's the Senior Account Manager from ACT. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. So usually I start out with everyone is where do they go to college?
No, college was an interesting journey for me. I started at Eastern Illinois University in Charleston, Illinois, and finished up at Judson University in Elgin, Illinois, a small liberal arts college. So I went from a fairly good-sized state school to a smaller private school.
Oh, okay. And so once you got out of college, how did you get into ACT? Was it something that you started from college, or did you go to other places?
Actually, my background's in education. I come from a classroom teaching experience in middle school and high school. And with ACT, we have two similar tests that occur in 8th and 10th grade called the Explore and the Plan test. And each predict performance in the next. So the 8th grade Explore test I used with my 8th graders, and the 10th grade Plan test I used with my 10th graders to really assess their progress towards performance on the ACT.
Oh, okay. Great. So how many years ago did you start with the ACT?
Oh boy. Well, that was 15 years ago. 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what brings you here to the East Coast and ACT?
Well, we have a nice base of interested people in our product. The ACT is an academic achievement test, but we're seeing a lot more colleges, universities, workforce organizations using the ACT as a basis for establishing or identifying readiness for a particular course or perhaps an occupation.
Okay. So is it similar to the SAT that a lot of parents in this area talk about?
It's similar in that many colleges will use that as a college admissions tool.
Okay.
And it's one of many tools colleges use to assess, pardon the word there, assess, but use to look at establishing a profile for that eligibility of that student to come to their school.
Okay.
The differences with ACT and SAT really comes into what they measure. SAT is more of a reasoning test, while the ACT is truly an academic achievement test. We're assessing what a student knows in English, math, reading, science, and optional writing. Okay. It also helps us talk to schools to say, are you giving your students the opportunity to understand, master, and capture those skills that are deemed to help that student be ready for post-secondary education?
I gotcha. Okay. And so what should parents know about the test?
The test is, again, it really is an academic achievement test. So we're really telling you what your student knows, and based on the data itself, what they're ready to know next. Okay. So as far as course choices for the rest of their time in high school, as far as what are their weaknesses, what are the things they can really focus in on to help them do better, and by helping them do better, in essence, helping them get a better score and perhaps another point or two towards scholarship or admissions to a university or college.
Okay. And so if I'm a parent of a student, how do I choose between the SAT and the ACT?
Well, the first thing I recommend, even to students, is that really do the homework. Talk to the schools, talk to the college universities to find out what is their requirements for entry. They may say, I require an SAT score, I require an ACT score. However, both the SAT and ACT are accepted by every four-year college in the country now. Mm-hmm. That's changed over the last several years. More and more schools allowing the ACT or considering the ACT as part of that admissions process. As I said, every school accepts that score, right. But having an early picture or early snapshot of a student's performance, what I mentioned before about 8th grade, if they have that picture in 8th grade, we're able to say, what kind of skills can we look forward to really working on to help that score be as much as possible at the end of the high school journey.
So tell me then, how early can a student take the ACT? Well,
as I said, the earlier assessments we have, you can use those as a basis for deciding how they might do on the ACT. If I give you a quick outline, the ACT is on a scale of 1 to 36.
Okay.
Our Plan assessment is on a scale of 1 to 32, and our Explore assessment is on a scale of 1 to 25. So if you take that 1 to 25 from the 8th grade test or the 9th grade test, it's the same 25 on the Plan. We bump out that meter a little bit to 32 for the 10th graders and 36, of course, for the juniors and seniors. So the best predictor of performance on the ACT is a student's planned performance. So really looking at truly what are the skills necessary to get a higher score, but more holistically, how am I doing as a student in high school, and how can I move that journey forward to be as successful as possible?
Okay, and so are there different pockets in the United States that do the ACT more than other pockets?
Well, that's interesting you should say that, and I'll tie this in with the last question. You said what brings me out here. My journey from Chicago, Illinois, where I live, to New Jersey, we're really not an ACT dominant state here on the East Coast. There's not really one ACT dominant state. So New Jersey, although we have seen in the last 5 or 6 years a really spiked increase in ACT test takers. So what we're trying to do is really get the word out, inform, educate parents and students to what the ACT is,
right,
and how we can help them use that to the best of, to the most benefit for the student.
So I've heard in the past that ACT is more of a southern state type of test, where SAT is more of a northern state type of test. Is that changed now?
Well, it's funny because when I was in school, back in the Midwest, I had heard the SAT was an East Coast, West Coast test. ACT was Midwest. But as I said, every school in the country now accepts the ACT. And as I said, we see more and more students taking the ACT as more folks learn about what the benefits are, what the components are, and how that can benefit them. We're going to see more and more ACT test takers.
So do you go into a lot of the high schools and express to the guidance counselors and teachers at the high schools what the ACT is about? Is that something that you do as part of your job?
Actually, that's probably takes up the most amount of our time is really data interpretation. So we take the test data from a tested graduating class. For instance, Princeton High School, class of 2013. We can look at that data and find out how many students took the ACT, and really find out if they have taken the plan or a pretest, find out if there was any growth from the first assessment to the second. Also talk to educators about curriculum. As I said, the ACT is a curriculum-based assessment. Our research arm of ACT has done years and years of research, over 53 years of research now, looking at what really is indicative of being ready for a post-secondary credit-bearing course.
Okay.
We're trying to prepare students to leave high school, to go into post-secondary ed, 2-year, 4-year tech, vocational world of work, to have them as prepared as possible. Being an academic achievement test, having our research base, we're able to say our benchmark scores on the ACT are really indicative of being prepared and ready for that credit-bearing course, directly out of high school.
Okay.
So if we are able to look at that test-taking pattern or look at growth, we can also talk to those educators about, let's make sure we're giving your students the opportunity to be taught at that level of college and career readiness, post-secondary education readiness, I call it.
So do you do a lot of conferences and things like that?
We do. We try and attend and exhibit and present at admissions counseling conferences, school counseling conferences, school administrator conferences, and we have representation across the country. So we try to get in front of as many educators as possible.
So is there any education to the families themselves, anything to the parents?
Sure. Aside from the actual information they get from the schools, we encourage students to go to the student website, which is actstudent.org, where they can, even if they have not taken the ACT, there is a wealth of information there for test prep, college planning, financial aid. So that's really a great place to start if they're really new to the ACT.
And does the website give them information on the ACT itself, and what can they expect in the test itself?
Absolutely. All the components are outlined, the time it takes to take the test, where they can register for the test. As I said, college planning, we can do a college search, so we can find out if we can really do an outline for that student to say, based on your interests, there's also an interest inventory they can take part in. Based on those interests and their career pursuits, what college might be the best fit for them.
So is there also something on the website where they can get the dates I mean, how many times a year
Right.
is the ACT
Right.
administered?
I'm envisioning the website in my head right now. On the left-hand side, there are many radio buttons, and one of them certainly is national test dates. Gives them the national test dates, the registration deadlines, and there's also a small window for those students who may have missed that deadline to have a late registration as well.
Okay, and so the parents that are out there that want to register their kids for the ACT, does it give them the fee? Does it give them where the location is?
Yes,
All of that.
and that's really nice because you're able to type in, get some demographics as far as where you are, and get a list of national test sites that are within proximity 5 or 10 miles of your home or wherever
Right.
you're traveling to give you some ideas of where you can take that test.
Okay. So what is the difference between the SAT and the ACT? With now the SAT in the news has been in the news quite a bit, going from 2,400 back down to 1,600. Is there anything that's similar or different that the ACT has?
Well, if you would ask me in 2016 what the simulators are going to be, I think we'd have a much more to talk about because the SAT, from what I've read in the news and what I've heard, is becoming an academic achievement test. So we're going to have another assessment that colleges are going to be able to look at to say what skills and knowledge does the student bring to this institution when we're talking about admissions processes. The SAT and the ACT, again, the differences and the similarities, it's often common for educators to say, take both to try to see which one you might do better at. And I've actually used that same theory with my personal children to see if they can take both tests. And some of them did and some of them did not. But as I said, as things change and go forward, I think we're going to see a much more similar playing field as far as that's concerned. What we bring to the table, though, as I said, we've got 3+ years of research, and it's going to take a while for the other tests to try and keep up with that.
I gotcha. So when parents are out there looking for the test and where it's located, are there classes that they could take? Is it something that's on the website, preferred vendors, things like that?
Well, what we suggest and what we really stand behind is the best prep for the ACT is a rigorous high school curriculum. So if we flash back to what I said earlier about data interpretation with the schools, if the schools provide a rigorous opportunity for students, they'll be prepared for an academic achievement test. So when a student takes that sequence of English 9, 10, 11, 12, and I mentioned benchmarks earlier, you can look up benchmarks on our website as well. The 18 is a benchmark for ACT. So I'll just do this simple conversation. If I have a sophomore measure of English that relates to the ACT and they've got a 15, that means I'm 3 points away from benchmark by the time the ACT, when I take the ACT.
Okay.
Do I, as an educator, looking at the standards and the curriculum, do I give my students the opportunity to bridge that gap?
Okay.
And if they do not, then we're going to pretty much suggest that's not a rigorous enough curriculum. So what we're really trying to do is get students into post-secondary ed without the need for mediation. And that's a multi-billion-dollar industry annually to get students to
So
take.
it's more the high school that's doing the work and getting them to be prepared enough for the test itself.
Yes, with any
Compared to-
academic achievement assessment, I'm sorry, it's really the school's job to make sure that opportunity is given to the students.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So compared to the SAT where they take these outside classes to enhance their score and things like that, there's nothing similar to that for the ACT.
There are many outfits out there that offer test prep for ACT as well, and many of those strategies deal with test taking tips, strategies, that kind of thing. But when it gets down to nuts and bolts, the rigorous high school curriculum is really what's best for preparation.
Gotcha. And so these extra organizations that are out there teaching the students, is there a cost that's involved? Do you know a range?
There's a range, yes. I'm glad you asked that because there are businesses out there that do offer these test prep opportunities, but I've seen them anywhere from $100 to several $1,000s.
Wow.
And when it boils down to what this is really about, 1 or 2 points for $2,000 or $3,000. Maybe it is the difference between a 31 and a 32 and a scholarship at institution A, but I'll stand by what I said in regards to the best prep in the world is
High school
making sure you've got rigorous core classes and experience in high school that prepares you for that journey in post-secondary.
So now how does a parent go to the high school and know that those core classes are rigorous enough? Do their students have to take like an AP type of class, or could they just take the regular high school class and still get the same thing?
And I will say that AP is indeed rigorous, and that would be a good indication of a rigorous core curricular experience by taking AP courses. But a good measure also would be to maintain, or I should say, monitor their progress from that first day of high school to the last day of freshman year, and keep that check going, making sure that you are involved in that student's experience. Make sure you're aware of that student's struggles and their successes as well.
So tell me then, do you cater to the kids that do extracurricular activities? You know, the sports, the band, that kind of stuff? Are the tests at certain times where those students can make the tests and so on?
Well, given that there are so many opportunities for the national test date, there is a program we started a couple of years ago called in-state ACT testing, or in-school testing, I should say, where we're offering schools the opportunity to give the ACT during the school day during the week.
Oh,
so
wow.
as opposed to securing a site on a Saturday morning and making sure that you hope students get there,
Yeah.
they're in school already, the proctors are there already. A good opportunity for in-school testing.
Oh, that's
The struggles there, though, are you're taking a classroom day of instruction away from the teachers. So it's got its checks and balances.
And are there a lot of kids that do that?
There are a great deal of schools that have taken that on this coming year. And it's actually been going on now for 3 or 4 years, depending on the name of the program. But yes, we've seen I'm not sure of the number of students, but
Right.
we're looking at several states have expanded that opportunity as well.
So being that we're on the East Coast, all the states that you go to here, you pretty much just East Coast to Mississippi, or are you north and south? How does your territory work?
Fortunately for me, I cover New Hampshire and New Jersey, so
Wow.
I don't have terribly far to go. But it really is a wide piece of real estate you have here. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a big difference when you go from state to state?
only in the knowledge of the assessment, and when I mean that in the most respectful way, because in Illinois, the SAT is not very well known.
Uh-huh.
It's known, but it's not as popular as. Well, in Illinois, it's called the Prairie State Achievement Assessment. So 14 states use the ACT as part of their state test.
Okay.
Illinois is one of them. So that's probably one of the reasons why it's not very popular to have the SAT
Gotcha.
or any other assessment there. But coming to the East Coast and coming to a non-dominant ACT state, to be able to talk to folks who really don't know about the ACT really has been a rewarding experience for me, because it's really educating students, educating parents about
Right.
what this assessment is and how it can be useful for them as well.
And is there any level that you do at the colleges as well?
We do reach out to post-secondary institutions as well. We have assessment programs. We have data interpretation we do with post-secondary institutions as well. So I mentioned how we can look at seeing how a student's prepared for post-secondary. We can also look at a student's post-secondary experience to see how well that went for them in that 4 years or 2 years.
And that's very interesting that
Yeah.
you have an aspect of a wide range, giving the amount of years that you're watching the
Right.
student, basically.
Yeah, and we've got to be very careful, though, as I kind of alluded to this earlier, in terms of classroom time and testing. That's the biggest criticism of the education or the assessment industry, is that we're taking teaching time away from educators. So what we're trying to do is make this, any one of our assessments, as meaningful as possible to help them use that data and use those results to help that student move forward.
So would you say that some of the high schools, secondary schools, things like that, are they taking time just to teach kids what's on the assessment?
Well, I believe what we see is teachers teaching to their curriculum. What they should be doing is, here's the district curriculum, and as far as accountability is concerned, they have their job to do. However, we see the Common Core Assessment Initiative, which has been going on for several years now, really almost dictating what Common Core nationwide should be. Two consortia across the country, the Smarter Balance Consortia and the PARC Consortia, all have bought onto the Common Core state standards. We have to make sure that our assessments, our data, helps them not only accomplish college readiness, but address the requirements of the consortia as well.
So what have you found by coming to New Jersey and as well as New Hampshire? What have you found by what they've instituted at the schools from the state level? I'm assuming you get a lot of that from the state level?
Yes. It's really, I'll tell you a quick story if I could.
Sure.
Being in education, being in the classroom, I really felt it was a very hard decision to move from the classroom to ACT. In my small school where I taught, I knew every student, I knew their parents, I knew their brothers and sisters. It was really a struggle, and I coached football and baseball as well. So it was a struggle to leave, remove myself from the classroom, and go into this. But I knew that I'd still be able to affect or help students.
Right.
And then picking up, and from Chicago and traveling out to New Jersey, I was a little nervous and didn't know the unknown. But the beauty of education is that wherever you go, if you've got dedicated educators and willing students, it's a meaningful journey no matter where you're coming from or where you're going to. So it's been really rewarding to see the dedication and the hard work of the educators and the students.
So what does the state give the students? Do they give anything to the schools to mandate to the students, or is there pretty much just up to the high schools? Well,
there are some state mandates that every school must do, but I would imagine, I can't speak to every school district in New Jersey or New Hampshire, but there's going to be some district directives that schools have to follow.
Okay.
And that's going to be wide and varied. I couldn't comment on that.
You couldn't? Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Sure.
trying to find out,
Yeah.
I'm really looking at, what the parents would be asking. And that's why a lot of it was about, the parents and what they should look for,
Mm-hmm.
and giving those answers was fantastic. So could you, on the parents' side of things, could you tell the parents what they need to do with their son or daughter to take an exam like this and know that they're comfortable enough that
Sure.
they'll be able to at least pass the exam and get into a school that maybe they're looking for?
Yeah, and pass, I wouldn't use the word pass. It definitely is not a pass-fail situation.
Okay.
But to first part of your question, parents should really be involved, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, making sure they're aware of that student's situation. Where are they doing well, and where are they perhaps not doing so well? Having those experiences early in high school that kind of mirror that ACT experience really helps with the student be more comfortable with that scenario of the timed test. Having opportunities to look at test prep or sample questions on our website is a really good opportunity as well. To be able to say what kinds of questions are being asked of my student and have that student reach out to say, well, I really need to find out, I know what I'd like to do after high school, I know where my grades are. If there's a gap there, how do I fill that? Who do I talk to? Encourage that student to reach out to mom and dad, or a counselor, or a teacher, or a friend who's done the same experience or same journey. It's really good to be involved. And I'll reiterate what I said earlier as well. Talk to the schools you're interested in. To find out what they would like, what they need, what they require, what they recommend.
And how long is the test?
It's just under 3 hours if you don't take the writing test. If you add the writing test, it's another 30 minutes. So you're looking at just under 3 hours for English, math, reading, and science. Add the writing, and you're just over 3.5 hours.
So the sections are 4 sections?
Correct. Writing is optional.
Gotcha. And what advantage does the writing give the student?
That's another thing that post-secondary institutions are still kind of figuring out. Some use them in lieu of an essay. Some use them as a writing sample to assess a student's ability to write. And some schools still don't know if they're going to require or recommend. There's a nice feature on our website. You go to the writing test and find out do it by state or do it by school, click those drop-down menus, fill those fields out, and find out, well, it turns out this school, 2 of the schools I'm interested in require a writing test. So
Really?
when they take the ACT, take it with writing. If you miss the writing assessment, you can't just take the writing test. You got to go back and take the whole thing over again.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, so we're running out of time. What I'd like to ask you to end with is, what do you want to leave the parents and the educators in the state with ACT?
I would say what I told my students when I tell my kids today: do some research, be an informed decision maker. If you're curious about the ACT, take a look at it. Understand what it is, what its components are, and what benefits it will have to your student and to their journey in high school and beyond.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for coming. I
My
appreciate
pleasure.
your time here. The time goes pretty quickly.
Yes, it does.
So thank you very much. My name is Anthony Uva, and the show that you're watching is The Secrets of College Planning. Until next time, thank you.